What if I told you that one day, in the early days of World War II, a few hundred exhausted British soldiers drove their outdated tanks straight into a wall of 300 German panzers, and for a moment, they actually stopped them. That sounds impossible. It sounds suicidal. And in many ways, it was. But what happened on May 21st, 1940, in northern France, was more than just a suicide mission. It may have saved Britain itself. I'm Matt, and this is Battlefield Legends, where we tell true stories of courage, sacrifice and survival from the battlefield. The story begins in the spring of 1940. France is collapsing. In just a matter of weeks, the German army has unleashed its terrifying new strategy, Blitzkrieg, lightning war. Fast-moving tanks, motorised infantry and screaming dive bombers. They don't just advance, they smash through. Villages, roads, bridges, swallowed in hours. Town after town is overrun. Columns of refugees clog the roads. Entire families fleeing with carts and suitcases, while aircraft strafe the highways. The Allies had thought they would fight Germany like World War I. Trenches, slow advances, defensive lines. But Blitzkrieg doesn't wait. It doesn't stop. It doesn't give you time to breathe. By late May, the British Expeditionary Force, the BEF, and their French allies are in full retreat. They're falling back towards the Channel coast, desperate to escape before they're encircled. Soldiers are exhausted. They've been fighting, marching, retreating, almost without food or sleep. Morale is crushed. And now the Germans are on the brink of cutting them off completely. On May 21st, near the French town of Arras, a desperate idea takes shape. Instead of retreating again, what if they counterattack? The goal isn't victory. No one even pretends it is. The goal is to buy time, to slow Rommel's spearhead, to make the Germans hesitate. Even a few hours could be the difference between annihilation and survival. The force gathered for this attack is tiny. 2 infantry battalions, maybe 2,000 men, a handful of artillery, and fewer than 80 tanks. But these are not ordinary tanks. Among them are Matilda 1s and Matilda 2s. They're not glamorous machines. The Matilda 1 is basically a steel box with a machine gun. The Matilda 2 is slow, crawling across the ground at less than 10 miles an hour. But they have one advantage that changes everything: armour. In 1940, the German Panzer III and Panzer IV can tear through almost enemy tanks like paper. But against a Matilda II, their shells just bounce. And that's what the British are betting on. Because in front of them, across the rolling French countryside, is Rommel's 7th Panzer Division. Over 300 tanks, thousands of infantry, artillery, air support. By every measure, unstoppable. This is David charging straight at Goliath, and the British knew it. Early on May 21st, the order comes down. Engines rumble to life. Black smoke drifts in the morning air. The ground shakes as the Matildas roll forward, steel tracks clanking, the sound echoing off the stone walls of empty villages. Inside those tanks, the air is stifling. Oil fumes sting the nose. The men are cramped, sweating, pressed shoulder to shoulder in steel coffins. Every mile forward feels like another mile deeper into death. And yet, they go. Because they're not being sent to win, they're being sent to delay. And for some, that means they won't be coming back. The column snakes out of Arras, moving through narrow village roads, past farmhouses with shutters drawn, past fields of ripening wheat that wave gently in the morning breeze. The French civilians have already fled. The countryside feels abandoned, haunted. At first, silence. Then, contact. German patrols spot them. Shots ring out. The first 37mm anti-tank guns open fire. Shells slam into the Matilda IIs, sparks fly, paint scorches, the sound is deafening, metal on metal, but the tanks keep rolling. The German crews can't believe it, their weapons are useless. Imagine being a soldier on the ground, seeing your rounds bounce like marbles off a wall of steel that keeps coming closer, louder, unstoppable. The British fire back. Matilda cannons roar, spitting fire. Shells blast German positions to pieces. Trucks erupt in flames. Infantry scatter. The shockwave alone knocks men to the ground. To the Germans, it looks like a massive counter-offensive. They have no idea it's just a handful of tanks. Radio reports fly back to Rommel. We're under heavy attack. A major Allied push. Rommel halts his division. He orders units to regroup. He thinks he might be facing the start of a full-scale Allied counterattack. And for a few hours, that illusion holds. The British charge forward, smashing through village after village. German troops abandon their lines. Rommel himself rushes to the front, stunned at what he's seen. But he's Rommel. He adapts fast. And that's when he brings out the one weapon the Matildas can't withstand, the 88mm flak gun. It was designed as an anti-aircraft weapon, to blast bombers out of the sky, but when levelled at a tank, it becomes one of the deadliest weapons of the entire war. German crews set up the massive cannons. They wait. The countryside falls silent for a breath, and when the Matildas rumble into range, they fire. This time, the shells don't bounce. Armour shatters. Steel is torn apart. The Matilda's advantage is gone. One by one, the British tanks go up in flames. Crews are killed instantly or burned alive inside their machines. Black smoke pillars into the sky. The battlefield turns into a furnace. But here's the thing, the British don't stop. Even as tanks explode around them, even as comrades vanish in fireballs, the survivors push forward. They know they're outnumbered. They know the 88s are tearing them apart, but they keep charging. For hours they fight like demons. Infantry advancing behind tanks, rifles cracking, bayonets fixed. The air is thick with cordite, smoke and screams. Each hedgerow, each crossroads, bought with blood. At one point, villagers watching from their cellars later recalled seeing Matildas roll past houses, firing point blank into German lines, while British infantry clung to their sides. Rommel later admits how close he came to disaster. His division, one of the best in the German army, nearly broke by this sudden, unexpected attack. But eventually, numbers tell the truth. By evening, the British are spent. Their tanks are burning wrecks across the countryside. Their infantry are cut down, surrounded, captured. The attack has failed, at least on paper. Because here's the twist, that desperate counterattack at Arras made Rommel hesitate. It made the Germans believe they were facing more than just a handful of units. It made them pause, and that pause bought time. Time for the British and French to fall back to the coast. Time to dig in around Dunkirk. And just days later, that pause allowed nearly 340,000 Allied soldiers to be evacuated across the Channel in one of the most extraordinary rescues in military history. The miracle of Dunkirk. But without Arras, without those men who charged headlong into 300 tanks, that miracle might never have happened. So think about it. On May 21st, 1940, a few hundred men climbed into obsolete tanks and drove towards certain death. They weren't supposed to win. They weren't supposed to survive. And most of them didn't. But in those critical hours, they stopped Rommel's panzers. And in doing so, they may have saved Britain itself. At Arras, courage met chaos. And for many, it was the last stand they'd ever make. If you were there, would you have pushed forward, or would you have fell back? Hit like and subscribe for more battlefield legends. And when you're ready, watch this next story. it's even more unbelievable. The battlefield never forgets, and neither do we. Until the next battle, thanks for watching.